All right. In three, two. Hey, Shane. So talk to us about SEO. Tell me one or a couple tactics or strategies that will help bring in new patients and help us better utilize SEO.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think everybody pretty much knows why SEO is so important, because obviously if you're getting patients through Google and you're not having to pay for those patients every time they click on your profile or your ad, that's a win-win. But we've been in the SEO space in dentistry for quite some time now, and there's a common trend that we see. A lot of times companies will bring up, hey, I've had somebody doing SEO on my website for several years. I'm not really seeing the results from it. It's like, we have this beautiful site, this practice down the road has this ugly, outdated site, but they outrank us on Google. Like, what is going on? And usually what it comes down to is this one strategy that either isn't being implemented at all, or it's not being implemented effectively. And that is what we call in the SEO space backlinking. So essentially what I tell people is you can do as much SEO on the website as possible. You can update your heading tags on the site to the most important keywords. You can have the fastest website in the whole city. You can have your images tagged and optimized properly and all of these things. But if you're not getting links that are pointing back to your practice's website, you are missing a huge chunk of what a very effective SEO campaign would have. And the way I always explain this to people is, think about if you're at a party and you have one person who is just like the life of that party, right? It's like everybody seems to gravitate towards them. They tell the best stories, they can captivate an audience, all of these things. And people start to talk about that. Essentially, in the eyes of Google, that's what you want your website to be like. You want your website to be the center of the party. And how you become the center of the party is you get other sites to link or talk about your practice's website. And if you don't have that, again, you can have the most beautiful website, you can have the best optimized site, but it's usually not going to matter, especially if you're in somewhat of a competitive area. And so the next question usually becomes, Michael, well, that's great, but how do I get other sites to link to my site? Like, what can we do to make that happen? And there's a few different things you can do. One is you need to have your site built out on all the most important directory listings out there. So even if we're talking about sites that nobody really go to anymore, like yellow pages, white pages, those type of sites, that builds up what's called like your brand authority. And so those are many times what we in the SEO world will call no follow links, where basically a no follow link doesn't really give SEO juice to your site, and then a follow link does give juice to your site. But the no follow links are still important to have from the branding side of it and really build that solid foundation for your SEO campaign. So having these directory listing sites, that your practice is listed on, the top 50 or 100 type sites, is the first step. But the second step, and what is the most impactful, is getting links from news websites. Maybe it's your alma mater, your university that you attended, or maybe it's another local business in the area. If you get one of those sites to link to yours, you're going to see a huge jump in your rankings more times than not. And I'll give you a perfect example of this. We have a pediatric dentist that we work with out on the East Coast, and here recently she was featured in a news article by the local TV station in the area. And they were talking about this nonprofit organization that she's partnered up with to help, basically, for every so many new patients she gets, she donates to this nonprofit. And the news media thought this was really cool. And so what happened was they came out and did a story with her, and they wrote up an article. And in that article, they mentioned, her practice, and they put a link from that article where it mentioned her practice to her practice website. And what that did is, in the eyes of Google, it said, wow, this pediatric dental office that it has a really sleek looking site, it's optimized for X, Y, and Z keywords. It's being talked about by this news site. It must be relevant. It must be an authoritative practice. What we're going to do is we're going to boost it up in the search rankings, because at the end of the day, Google wants to provide the best user experience for the person who's using the Google search engine. And so if it sees that your site has all these particular keywords that people are searching and other websites are talking about or linking to your site, that's what's going to ultimately propel you up into the search rankings. And if you do, an analysis, there's tools out there like ahrefs.com. That's a paid tool, but that's one that we use. But there's others out there. You can actually do an analysis and look at your site or your competitor's site and see what links that they have pointing back to them. So what websites are out there linking to them. And you'll see more times than not, the sites that are ranking 1, 2, and 3 for those most competitive keywords have these authoritative links coming in. So that is a huge part of the SEO equation that we oftentimes just see, not really being addressed.
Got you, man. Okay. So then when it comes to this, can you give us like maybe one or two specific, if somebody's listening and they're like, man, I want to get maybe 3 or 4 backlinks from this specific, how can we reach out? What can we say? Things like that.
Yeah, the first thing that I would recommend that we've just seen is try to partner up with a nonprofit organization in your community. Even if you're just going to volunteer regularly at one of their events, or maybe you're going to provide, a day of dental care to its members, whatever the case is, if you reach out to a nonprofit in your community, many times what they will do is they will help promote that you are supporting their organization. So you'll be listed on their website where you will be getting a link back to your website. So that's number one, is teaming up with a nonprofit organization. The second thing is reach out to the local news about something that you're doing in the practice. And every practice has something unique that's happening. Maybe it's some offices have like a therapy type dog, right, in the office. That's something that you can pitch to the local media and be like, hey, this is something that we have to help keep our patients who have dental anxieties, comfortable in the office. Would you might want to come out and maybe do a short story on this? That is an easy way to start getting, these authoritative links back to your site. Because if you get a write-up, you'll get a link back. But maybe it's not something like a dog. Maybe it's something like once a year, you do a smile makeover for a veteran. The news media will eat that up. I come from the news media before the marketing world, and I can tell you, anytime you have a really neat, positive story where there's going to be emotion evoked in that, they want to be there. They want to capture that moment, because those are the type of posts that go viral online. And so if you do something like that once a year, while you may look at it as like, yeah, it's kind of a cost to me if I'm doing a smile makeover, you have to think about the free PR you would be getting, number one, for that, the reputation you'd be getting in the area. Also, just think of the human side of it, right? Like that's a really nice thing to do for somebody. But then the third piece of that is getting that link that you would get from those news sites that point back to your site. That's going to help you tremendously in the organic search results. And then the third and final thing that people can do is if you have a good relationship with, whether it's your dental school or your undergraduate, school where you did undergrad, reach out and sponsor, do a sponsored event where you go and talk to the students. And, a lot of times they'll do a write-up on those and link, to your practice's site where you're the owner to talk a little bit about you and who you are. But traditionally speaking, news websites and .edu sites, so like college sites, things like that, tend to be the most powerful sites that you can get a link back from. So reach out to a nonprofit organization, see if you can get listed on their site for something that you're doing to help support your college. If you have a great relationship with the college, university, see if you can reach out and do something that way. And then the news media, reaching out about something unique that you're doing in the office. Maybe it's a way you use TikTok, whatever the case is. Those are 3 ways that you can really start to move the needle and get some links pointing back to your site that are powerful.
Got you, man. Okay. A quick question, because you used to be in the news media, right? Like
Yep.
you used to do that. So when people sign up to like Crimson Media Group, is that like an option to be like, hey man, I want to be in the news media. Can you make that happen or no?
Yeah, so that's one of the things that it's kind of overall in our marketing strategy, especially for offices who don't mind like being, on camera, because some people are like, I don't know if I could do it. But for those that are wanting to, get the name out there and really, capture some of that local audience through the news media, that's definitely something that we work on and kind of finding out, kind of a unique twist to something that you're doing in the office. And then, yeah, we pitch that to different local media sources. And the one nice thing about coming from that industry is not in every single market, but there are many people spread out throughout the country that I used to either work with or had working relationships with. So it pays to know people sometimes, in that space. And so that's proved to be pretty effective for many of the offices we work with to kind of get the word out, get some, free publicity, and, get some SEO benefits in the meantime.
Nice, man. Yeah, I remember whenever we would ground market and like do these events with people. Eventually, we started asking them like, "Hey, can you, we're gonna be there. Can you kind of like put our logo and maybe get like an S, you know what I mean, like a link back to our website and things like that when we're done, and or when the event is coming up, and it worked. You know what I mean? Like these like backlinks work. So I think it's fantastic. So when it comes to this right here, getting the backlinks, any other piece of advice you want to give to our listeners that they can do today, take actionable steps?
Well, what I always tell people is, you have to track. Like at the end of the day, you have to have a baseline where you're starting. So whatever keywords, in the area that you're wanting to rank for, I mean, first off, I would look at the data on those and see what keywords people are searching in the area. But I would make a list of what those keywords are. Use a tool like ahrefs.com, accuranker.com. There's many different keyword tracking tools that you can use, but see where you're at, where you currently rank for those, and then start to implement the strategy that I've given and that others will be giving in the series as well. And just monitor month over month where those rankings are going. And the big thing that I just want to stress here is don't freak out if you see a drop in rankings sometimes. What I tell people is an effective SEO strategy kind of looks like the stock market in many cases. It should consistently be going up over the long haul. So over a 3-month, 6-month, 12-month period, it should be higher than it was the previous 12 months. But you're going to go up, you're going to go down a little, and then you're going to go up and you're going to go down a little. And that's just kind of the way that the Google algorithm works. And so if you do something, don't overreact too quickly, because I think that's something that too many people do too often is they see, oh, my ranking dropped 6 spots when I did this. And then they try to go back and reverse and do a bunch of things. And then that can end up hurting you even worse than just kind of letting it play out, giving it the time. And by the time, I mean 2 weeks to a month, and then evaluating it and just having patience. If you have patience, track what you're doing and implement those strategies that I just talked about. It's worked for our clients for years. So I have no doubt that, it can work for people listening as well.
Awesome, Shane. I appreciate your time. And if anyone has further questions, you can definitely find them on the Dental Marketer Society Facebook group, or where can they reach out to you directly?
Yeah, or they can just go to crimsonmediagroup.com, and there you can actually fill out a contact form, and there will be a link to schedule a time one-on-one with me where we can chat and do marketing analysis and kind of see where you're at, where you're wanting to go, and see if we may be able to help you out.
Awesome, guys. So that's going to be in the show notes below. And Shane, thank you so much for being with me on this Monday morning marketing episode.
Thanks, Michael.